In this video I will show how to walk 1 or 2 cats at the same time without leash and how to train them to follow reliably, but also what things to pay attention to and what mistakes to avoid. Number 1. Requirements for off-leash walks. The cat or cats have to be already successfully trained to follow on leash. The longer the leash was, the better. At least 4 meters, better 8 meters long. It's absolutely important, while the leash training was done, that the cat walked mostly behind or next to the owner, so it learned to orient itself to the owner. The cat has to follow so well on leash that the owner doesn't have to use treats, doesn't have to constantly call the cat, and doesn't have to pull on the leash either. Pulling on the leash shouldn't be done in general, because cats don't like that, and it's a very bad training method which leads only to failure. Also, there's nothing to pull when walking a cat off leash, which means you will be in trouble when the cat never learned to come without you pulling on the leash. You should already have enough experience with walking the cat on leash and been through all possible situations, like meeting dogs on and off leash, bike riders, joggers, in general strangers, loud children, wild animals, cars and other vehicles, planes, helicopters, horse riders, different types of weather, and so on. So basically everything you could see and hear while being outside. You have to be able to protect your cat in any possible situation reliably and be able to calm your cat quickly so that the cat doesn't show any intention to run away and stays with you no matter what. Which means that the cat has to successfully complete an extensive anti-fear training and trust training. That is absolutely important. If you don't take those requirements to heart, then you will have a very big risk that your cat runs away at some point and something will happen to it. How to train a cat to follow reliably on leash so that you can off-leash it later without worry is shown in my Walking a Cat tutorial part 6. Number 2. Safety precautions. Like I said earlier, an owner should walk mostly in front or next to the cat. That a cat walks in front of the owner should be an exception and only shortly when walking off-leash. Why that's so important is explained in the Walking a Cat tutorials part 4 and part 6. By the way, walking in front of your cat is also very important if you want to make sure that your cat doesn't go hunting or is a danger to wildlife. If your cat walks in front of you, then wild animals won't notice the danger early enough and will become prey a lot easier. When you walk in front of your cat, your presence will spook wild animals early enough, which gives them more time to run away safely, before the cat even noticed anything. Which also makes sure that your cat won't vanish into the deep wilderness to chase something, which means it also keeps your cat safe. In our almost 10 years of walking and hiking, mostly without leash in nature, my 2 cats only caught 1 mouse and 5 to 6 snakes. So the method keeps the damage on the wildlife population very low. In the Walking a Cat tutorial part 3, I give also other tips on how to regulate the hunting instinct of the cat, and I also talk about all my experiences with meeting wild animals, also with bigger ones like wild boar, deer and so on. I only off-leash my cats in calm nature. In city or village areas I keep my cats on leash in general, since a cat has to spook only once and it would be hit by a car very quickly. I definitely don't recommend doing it any differently. If off-leash dogs, cars or other dangers approach us, I put my cats back on leash immediately or hold their tow lines. In such dangerous situations I want to be rather safe than sorry, even though my cats never try to run away due to their extensive training. If the danger is gone, I off-leash them again and we continue our walk like nothing happened. If we meet dogs on leash, bike riders, joggers or other strangers, I usually don't put my cats back on leash or don't hold their tow lines. You have to evaluate each situation and decide if there is a risk of a cat spooking or not. When there are doubts, it's better to leash the cat. What you can do when you meet off-leash dogs or other dangers, and what kind of different options there are, is shown in detail in the Walking a Cat tutorials part 2 and part 4. In general, you should be very observant and proactive while walking a cat. Keep an eye on the area, so you have enough time to react when something is going on. I think it's obvious that an owner should never use headphones or play with a mobile phone while walking a cat, since reckless behavior of the owner could cost the cat's life. Number 3. Off-leash training. When your cat always comes and follows you on leash reliably, you can dare to off-leash it in calm nature the first time. To be on the safe side, you should use a tow line in the beginning. The tow line should be very thin, so it won't get stuck somewhere and has not much weight either. The cat should get trained to get used to the tow line first, otherwise it could spook because it thinks something is chasing it. A tow line will make a noise while it's being dragged. Depending on the ground, it can get louder. For example, in a forest with dry leaves, the noise is louder. On pavement, there is basically no sound. While getting a cat used to the tow line, just keep it on its regular leash and let it drag the tow line while going on a walk. Practice that on different types of grounds till the cat doesn't show any reaction or uncertainty about it. I recommend that a tow line should be at least 3 meters long. You can choose a much longer tow line, of course, but in my experience, a tow line more than 10 meters is not practical. I have tow lines with 3 meters and with 10 meters. Till this day, I use both types in different situations, depending on risk of meeting off-leash dogs, wild animals, and so on. When we walk in very calm and remote nature, where we barely meet any human being, then I don't use tow lines, or even let them walk without everything, which means without harness too. When danger comes and you use a tow line, you need to hold the tow line very short but not tense, which means it's still a little loose. If the cat spooks and tries to run away, then it will have very little force, which decreases the risk of the cat getting hurt by running into the leash. If there was enough anti-fear training on leash, then something like that should be an absolute exception, so basically non-existent. If you get into a situation where the risk of the cat spooking is very high, then it's better to put on a long flexible leash, since only with such a leash you can stop a cat very gently and slowly. How to do that is explained in the Walking a Cat tutorial part 6. And there are all other options too, which I show in the Walking a Cat tutorials part 2 and part 4. I trained my cats to follow only with a tow line, just like I did with their regular leash. Go a couple of meters to the front and call the cat. Squat down and use treats to increase the effect. Don't forget to praise and cuddle a lot. The praising should start the moment the cat takes the first step into your direction. When it completely came to you, then you shower the cat with praise and cuddle. And don't forget treats, of course. After having success, you can increase the distance. How far you can go away from your cat depends on area and achieved training level. Look into the Walking a Cat tutorial part 6 for more tips, where I show how to train a cat to follow on leash. When walking 2 cats at the same time, I recommend to train one cat to follow with a tow line first and keep the second cat still on the regular leash. When you successfully trained the first cat, then you can train the second one. When the off-leash training was successful, you can make the walk a lot more interesting by running with your cat or cats. I'm doing that by just starting to run to the front. In the beginning, I also always said quickly in a row, go, go, go. Nowadays, I often don't say anything and just start running. My cats either start running after me immediately or a moment later. Using food is very helpful to keep cats close while running. Later, food is usually not necessary anymore. While running, you can keep a 3 meter or even 10 meter tow line on your cat without problems. My cats never got stuck anywhere. I recommend to keep the walks interesting, since a bored cat is more likely to come up with the idea to go its own way and to listen less when called. So don't always go the same boring pace, but also walk sometimes faster. Show your cat a lot of interesting things, like areas with sand to roll around and dig, grass to eat, or a nice tree for climbing, and so on. When seeing such interesting stuff, just go to it, call the cat and point to the object or area. I also always say, come, look. When doing that, the cat notices that the owner always finds such interesting stuff outdoors, and it's always worth it to come when called and follow. The owner is basically the travel guide for the cat and takes the cat sightseeing in nature. Of course, a cat would notice all the interesting stuff on its own when it walks past it, but a human can usually see such things a lot earlier, which means you can take advantage of it. I think this is very important while walking a cat off-leash, so you can be sure that it always will follow and come when called 100% reliably. Though it's the most important thing that a cat has a strong bond and a lot of trust towards the owner and was trained correctly, it still will keep its natural tendency of being independent. Especially when the cat got used to walks a lot and has no uncertainties about it anymore, it will become braver to increase the distance to the owner. There is no way to train a cat to change its whole nature. So instead of working against Mother Nature, work with her and use the curiosity of the cat. If it's always extremely interesting while staying with the owner, since he or she finds always such interesting stuff and there's so much fun while playing and running together, then the cat won't even come up with the idea to go its own way. How much variety you need on a walk depends on each cat. If you have a calm cat, you need to do a lot less. If you have a cat that would love to conquer the world, then you need to provide a lot more variety. My female cat Yozora is calm, but my male cat Otani would love to be everywhere at once. Also, to keep the walks interesting, especially for Otani, we go always in different areas. We have 15 different areas for walks, which we use in turns. We never go the same route 2 times in a row. If there's nice weather, we have 8 additional areas which are further away. Each year I also search for new areas for walks and hikes, so with time I was able to get a big collection of areas to choose from. In the beginning we had around 5 to 6 areas. So I recommend to go different areas for walks to keep it interesting and not to go always the same boring trail. I think 3 different areas would be a minimum. Of course, you should only increase the number of areas when the cat is already completely relaxed and follows you reliably in the area it already knows. If there are any problems with a cat following reliably, then you need to figure out why there's a problem first. If a cat doesn't follow reliably because it is unsure, then you need to do more anti-fear training and trust training. If it's because of boredom, then you need to provide more variety. Of course, there should be also breaks while going on a walk, so that the cat can just relax and do some sunbathing and so on. But you only should do a break if the cat wants to rest anyway. If a cat is still full of energy and excitement, then it won't want to sit around and will start roaming around on its own because it will get bored. So again, work with Mother Nature and not against her. Then you won't have to deal with a lot of problems in the first place. You can find all my other walking a cat tutorials and more in the pinned comment. If you liked the video, you can leave a comment and a thumbs up. If you have a question, I will help.